Do you know what signals real confidence? It is not the money, not the cool brands that you own, not the nice cars, not the muscles, not the loud voice that most people have. It is actually silence and a calm face under pressure. Silence and no emotion is not about being cold. It is about owning the frame. And trust me, if you're gonna be silent in moments where most people are loud, you're gonna stand out much more than some guy who's trying to flex oh, his noise job and all that. No, trust me, a person that is confident will always be the one which is the most silent in the room with the deadliest look. When you can easily sit in the moment in silence without needing to add anything in to the blank spots, you're literally showing to people that you're not afraid of the silence and that you're owning it. You're literally being one with it. When you're getting into an argument and you're not jumping with your emotions and your facial expressions, you're literally sit. When you're getting into an argument with someone about something and they see that you're not jumping at no argument, that you're not showing any weird facial expressions, you're literally telling them without even speaking that you're owning the frame. Confidence isn't about how much you say, it's more about how little you need to say. So, why silence is power? Why am I saying that it's such an amazing thing to learn and why you should learn it? Well, to be honest with you, silence is actually one of the hardest things to master. I would even say maybe the hardest. There's even a saying that silence is art, or how other people say art of silence. The reason for it is because people, the often they speak or the more they speak to you, they actually put themselves in a much, much, much worse situation than they were before because they keep talking. That's why it's so easily tellable by emotional people that they're not controlled by their logical thinking, but more than their emotional, because they literally speak into emotions or with emotions than either with logic or with silence. They're being composed and controlled by it. We are not trying to be part of that. And of course, that may seem super cold, knowing that, well, emotional intelligence is actually one of the most important things to also learn, to know how people feel, how they act, but you shouldn't be able to be controlled by them. If another person's reaction affects your reaction, that means that you don't even control your brain. The other person controls it, which is something that we're trying to escape. Well, silence also makes people think. A lot of people, or most people, try to fill in the silence because they're just afraid that there's nothing to be said. Meetings, even on dates, you know, that awkward moment when you walk with a girl and you don't really know what to say. Maybe she also doesn't know what to say, and people just, I don't know, say something out of the blue skies, which makes absolutely no sense and potentially even ruins the moment. Sometimes silence builds tension. There's also a higher chance that the other person will talk instead of you because, well, they feel the tension as well and they just cannot be, I don't know, not controlled by it. They just feel the pressure, so they just need the fact to talk with you. Simple as that. Well, you don't need it, so that makes you look confident, powerful, and also someone who controls the whole pace of the conversation and also is in control of his own mind and the frame. In silence, it forces clarity. You, for example, have definitely seen those videos when a sales guy sells something or gives you an offer or like the final price and just stops talking. And then the one who speaks first, which is the client who's, I would say, is about to buy, will definitely speak first. When that happens, you already win because they had given you the answer before you did. That means you won the moment of silence. Silence creates contrast. So when you finally speak after the long silence, it lands. Your words mean something. They're not just some words, they're words after silence. Your words, they carry weight. They mean something. They're not useless. They actually have a purpose in your way of showing how you want to speak to the person. You show also that you don't follow to the silence trap of if you feel the silence, you need to speak. No, You feel the confidence, you feel comfortable in that specific moment, and you own the silence. Most people use words to convince. You use silence to compel. But let's get one thing straight. If I say no emotions, it doesn't mean that you have to act like a robot or like an NPC. You're still a human being. What does that mean, no emotions? Under that, it means that you have to be relaxed. That means if you're under pressure, you don't look super tight or you are like, fighting for your dear life just to not do anything that you'll regret later, or you're not sweating or something like that. No, you're relaxed, you're talking calmly, you're looking the person in the eyes, you smile a bit, maybe crack a little bit of a joke there and there, but you don't look stressed. That is the most important part if you're a person who falls under these traps. Because when people see that you're stressed, you do not look very good. That's why people actually prefer nowadays when you have a more chill and relaxed fit than something super try hard like a suit. Even though suit is a super clean fit that actually needs to be pulled, you need to start looking more comfortable in things that actually feel comfortable. Of course, when you're gonna start out, it's gonna feel super, super uncomfortable. But to get to the comfort zone, you gotta do some uncomfortable things. Like they're just saying, if you're going through hell, why would you stop there, right? We're all trying to go to the paradise, right? We all trying to get to the final destination. We're not trying to stop in hell. So in those uncomfortable moments, think about the destiny, how it's gonna pay off, how much of the time that you're willing to spend to invest in yourself is gonna pay off. Because remember, you can buy food, you can do all sorts of things, but the time that you invest into yourself, the things that you buy for yourself, clothes, I don't know, perfumes, anything, education, courses, anything, that all is gonna pay off. It doesn't matter how expensive it is. If that is connected with you, it's always gonna pay off and you're never gonna regret it. So don't stop at the uncomfortable moments. Mindset in this is very important. When somebody tries to test you in these moments, you don't look super angry or stressed that somebody asked you a question. Where like when you're in school, there are these kids who, for example, you ask them a question and they're like, what? They're super stressed. You're trying to be the guy who technically usually had bad grades, or he was usually very smart. The one who's like, yeah, here, yeah, whatever, basically. That type of guy. Because they're confident and they're relaxed. You need to be relaxed. You need to be, as I like to call it, in the zone. So when people approach you with interesting questions, or you clearly see that under that question, a lot of times there's an under question that comes after that. A lot of people, when they ask, for example, religious questions, there's always these, either you say yes or no, there's always these questions afterwards because they try to get some kind of emotion out of you. Some people's just number one goal is to ruin someone else's day or to trying to make them look bad in public. We do not want to fall under people like that. So stay sharp and remember this. So noble situations where these strategies work really well. Like I said before, in sales, this works perfectly. The silence is very, very important. I could even make an argument that if you're a client, a lot of times you can also fool the sales guy with your silence because maybe you're their first client. Maybe if you walk away, they get fired. You never know in what kind of situation they're in. A lot of time, new sales guys, as well, I have been a sales guy in my past. I had these moments where I felt really, really, really stressed. But I still pulled through and closed the client at the end because it was very important for the guy to feel the need of being heard. And when the silence did arrive, you didn't feel it. Like when they're thinking, you're not just throwing words in thinking that the deal is slipping away. Actually, it is slipping forward. So please, also remember that when the silence arrives in the sales, if you do work sales, remember every single second there is a silence they're going to feel more and more uncomfortable, and that's going to deal you closer and closer to the deal. Leadership. We all know a leader that is very composed. Every leader has to know the fact how to control their emotion and how to lead. Since they are the ones leading the pack, leading the team, anything, they need to be composed and know what to do in specific situations. If you would be under a team leader, maybe you are actually under one right now. Imagine he gets in an argument with an employee and he just starts yelling and losing himself. Would you really think that guy's confident? Exactly, you wouldn't. Or if you see a guy in a basketball game and the referee gives him a foul and he goes bananas, he's throwing everything, then gets even a technical foul, does that look like someone who's composed? No, because he hasn't learned that, or he hasn't taught that he needs to learn that. We also call that very much as immaturity or fake confidence. A lot of times that happens when you get fast success, so you can't control your emotions, and you literally go, like I said, bananas. So with long and patient work, the confidence arrives. With fast success, never does. In social pressure or social meetings with someone, as for example dates, a lot of times a girl may test your patience, or maybe a person on the street will try to talk to you or have a conversation, and how you react to their questions, them being there really also shows what kind of person you are. I know there are people who say, if I eat junk food, it doesn't count. This one time it doesn't count. It does. Trust me, it does. Every single thing counts. So even if you have an awkward conversation or a really bad conversation with someone when you're socializing, it also stacks up, because you should be able to control every single scenario. And I'm not saying that you will immediately, but with time and patience, it's gonna come. Trust me, having your own business, having your personal brand, content. Maybe some of y'all who are watching maybe are just like me. They want to start to post content, want to start doing something. Trust me, with that comes a lot of negativity. It's not actually as cool as that sounds, as, oh, owning your own business, owning your own brand. It's actually 5 times, I would say, harder than being employed. Because being employed, you come to work, you do your job, you're basically just like everybody else. But if you chose to go, as we call it, the unconditional path or the unusual path, you literally are taking away that most people are afraid to take, or they have thought about it and they will not take it because, well, they do not have the balls, as I like to call it. And in those specific scenarios, we are not trying to fool ourselves or to look like kids. What I mean by looking like kids is a lot of times they're trying to set traps. They're going to talk bad. They're going to be at the beginning maybe very, very, very passionate because you have a hobby. But once you start doing it consistently, they're going to start saying you work too hard, or maybe they would say your content is cringe. For example, I'm literally alone in the kitchen. In the kitchen. I have a tripod and a phone in front of me. I bought this mic like a week ago. It's literally red. Like, literally red. How cringe can it get, right? Technically, from that perspective. I'm technically, literally, right now, talking into a camera. That is peak cringe, peak level embarrassment, you know? But I don't care about it anymore. I have lived and seen so many people. The ones who judge you, the ones who say bad things about you, are the ones who don't do shit. They don't do anything. They literally sit at their homes, or they talk smart, but when there's actually time to work, investing into yourself, oh, my shoulder hurts. Oh, I'm super busy. Dude, I just came back from an 8-hour shift, and I usually also have gym after that. That's literally having 12, 13-hour work days with 7 hours of sleep, not counting, of course, eating. Do you think I would care about any of that? I used to care, but at some point, you just stop caring. That's why it's very important what you are in these specific scenarios when people literally are super, super, super aggressive against you. You go against that and you push more of that silence treatment, of that I don't care what you say, I completely agree with you, whatever you're saying, but I don't care. But you're not saying it, of course. You are like, yeah, yeah, I completely agree, and you don't give them any more information. All those times, people realize that you're not being touched by what you say, and they just back off. I'm not saying they're going to completely back off, but they're going to stop talking about you. Or you can also just leave. You can also just get up and leave. That's also a way that I deal with stuff. If somebody says something funny or maybe disrespectful to me, if that happens multiple times, I literally just leave. That's also a very good way how to handle things, because why would you sit in a place that doesn't appreciate your value? Remember that. Well, Robert, tell me, how can I train all of this, right? You probably literally want me to print in all this information in you and you will always like remember it, right? Well, actually, it's not that easy. Confidence, I would say, is the most hardest, if not the hardest thing to master, because it's part of mentality. As you know, most people always are willing to spend a whole lot of money on individual lessons, courses on how to learn a perfect strategy, how to earn money. You can literally have Elon Musk come and tell you how to earn 5K, 10K a month, and you will not do it. Why? Because your mentality and your mindset is not clear enough. That's why it's super important for you to go through all the confidence factors to learn them. So, and of course, one of them is being silent, because silence, trust me, pays off really well in the short game and in the long run. Of course, you will not see any progress at the first day. Of course, because you just started. That takes time. You're kind of developing, as I would like to call, a different personality. It's not that you don't care, you just don't feel bothered or you don't care about people's opinions, who you just don't care about. And a lot of times, family also will say some things, but you have developed and strengthened your backbone in a way that you do not bend the knee, but you stand still and you do what you have to do. Common mistakes that I see every single day is when people over try it, or what is this called? Yeah, the name nonchalant. Yes, they act nonchalantly and super, oh, I don't care, and all of that. That's not how to do it. That's literally the complete wrong way to do it. You do not want to look like you just don't care about everything or nothing at all. That's not how we try and look. We try and look like someone who cares but doesn't care about things that do not pay his bills. That's literally all there is and nothing else to it. Saying this to other people, oh, I'm just gonna become super chill and super not caring and I'm gonna change personalities. We're not trying to say that to people. They're literally gonna see it themselves. They're literally gonna feel it when they talk to you. So there's no reason to announce anything. I don't see any reasons to announce anything about this which you're watching or what you're doing. It's more like show them with your actions, with your personality. Show them with that business that you were planning to build all this time. Just do all that. So why does this work? That is the real question. Why does this work? How, from a psychology perspective, why does this part of silence works? Well, like I said, people love to talk. People love to talk about themselves. People love to talk about anything, especially gossip, trust me. And when a person is silent, it just feels super uncomfortable. And a lot of times, you have to be just a little bit longer, just a second or two more silent than the person that you're talking to for you to literally go and be able to speak about other things that actually that they wanted to talk about. Like they open up, for no reason. You know those people who are like, I will not talk about this. A few seconds later, some silence arrives. Okay, I will. And they start talking themselves because they just want to actually speak about it. But if you maybe would have spoken, they wouldn't. They just felt the need of filling in the gap. How do I know this? Because I have done it. I have fallen into the same trap by the same people. That's how I found that out. I realized that I talked, but I didn't need to talk, or I talked about things that I didn't need to talk about. That's just part of life. You'll learn it, and that's about it. That's all that matters, is that you learn from your mistakes. Now that you have realized them, you absorb them and start using them in your favor. There is a story about the Soviet Union. Back in the day when it was World War II, there was a guy who needed to be hanged. And back then, well, let's just say the Russians didn't have the best equipment, right? So there was a guy who needed to be hanged. He got hanged, and the rope, it broke, so he didn't die. And instead of going and just thinking that he didn't die, the first thing he did was, see, even the ropes don't work in this country. Even they rip. There was a guy in the crowd, a journalist. What he did, he write all of that down on a piece of paper. He took it to the, wonderful Stalin, and he got hanged again because he opened his mouth in a moment where he should have stayed silent. Confidence, it isn't loud, it is clean. When you can sit in silence, you own the moment. When your face doesn't dance with different emotions, you own yourself. Use silence, use no emotion. Don't use it to manipulate, use it to show mastery. Because the loudest thing in any room is a person that doesn't need to talk.